Ultimatum. The Galactic Council chamber hung suspended in the void between stars, a monument to ancient power. Crystalline walls bent light from a dozen nearby systems, casting the assembled delegates in an ethereal glow that seemed designed to remind lesser species of their place. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood at the human podium, her small frame dwarfed by the towering representatives around her. To her left, the Krathian delegates' multiple heads swayed with barely concealed amusement. To her right, the Vex Primarch's mechanical body hummed with calculated indifference. The human petition announced Council Arbiter Thel Var, his voice resonating through translation matrices in 47 languages simultaneously. Requests protected status for the 17 colony worlds in the outer reach. The Council recognizes Ambassador Chen. Sarah stepped forward, her hand steady despite the weight of 3 billion lives resting on her next words. Honored Council, she began. Humanity comes before you not as supplicants, but as partners. We've contributed. Contributed what? Exactly. The Krathian delegate's central head interrupted, while its other two continued a private conversation in whistling harmonics. Labor. Service crew. Your species has been useful, Ambassador, but usefulness does not grant sovereignty. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Sarah's jaw tightened, but her voice remained level. We offer more than labor. Human engineers solved the Kepler station radiation crisis. Human mediators ended the Vosh trade war. Human emotions. The Vex Primarch cut in, its synthesized voice flat and final. Are precisely why your species remains unsuitable for true galactic participation. You feel too much. Think too little. React when you should calculate. The Arbiter raised a limb for silence. The Council has reviewed humanity's petition. The verdict is postponement. Pending further evaluation of human stability and long-term viability as an independent actor. The outer reach colonies will remain under joint administration. This hearing is concluded. Sarah stood frozen as the delegates began to file out. Joint administration. A pretty phrase that meant human worlds would continue to be mined. Their resources allocated by alien bureaucrats who'd never set foot on those worlds, never felt their soil, or breathed their air. Ambassador Chen. The Krathian delegate paused at her podium. All 3 heads now focused on her, with something that might have been pity. A word of advice from one who has seen many species come and go except your place. The galaxy has an order. It has survived for 10 million cycles because that order is maintained. Your kind is too young, too passionate, too human to understand. Give it time. Perhaps in another 100,000 years. The delegate moved on, leaving Sarah alone in the emptying chamber. She stood there for a long moment, looking out at the stars beyond the crystalline walls. Somewhere out there, on 17 worlds, humans were waiting for news. Waiting to hear if their children would grow up free or as subjects of an order that saw them as temporary conveniences. Sarah pulled out her personal comm and typed a single message to Earth. Diplomacy has limits. Time to show them what else we offer. The message was marked Priority Level 7, a code that meant prepare for escalation. As she walked out of the chamber, Sarah didn't notice the small observation. alcove where a junior analyst from the Talshire Collective had been recording the proceedings. The analyst's compound eyes narrowed thoughtfully as they reviewed the footage of the human ambassador's face in those final moments. They had seen that expression before, on other species just before the pattern changed. It wasn't anger. It wasn't desperation. It was calculation. The analyst flagged the file with a red indicator and added a note. Monitor human activities. Expression patterns suggest strategic reorientation. But the note was filed into a database containing 3 trillion similar observations, and no one would see it for another 6 months. By then, it would be far too late. Part TW. THEQI PRION. 8 months after the council verdict, the Kepler Belt facility officially didn't exist. Tucked between asteroids in a backwater system humanity had mined for decades, it was logged in galactic databases as Industrial Site 447, Theta, inactive. The logs weren't wrong, not exactly. The official mining operation had closed down. What replaced it was something else entirely. Docker. Marcus Webb floated through the Zero Gravity Research Bay, watching his team work with the kind of quiet intensity that reminded him of prayer. In a way, it was. They were all praying that human ingenuity could bridge a gap, measured in millions of years of evolution. Show me the current iteration, Marcus said to his lead engineer, Yuki Tanaka. Yuki pulled up a holographic display. We call it the Prometheus engine. It's not faster than light, the galaxy has us beat there. But it's different. The schematic rotated slowly, unlike the elegant, organic curves of Crathian drives, or the crystalline perfection of Vex propulsion. The Prometheus engine looked almost crude. Brutalist. A fusion of human desperation and borrowed alien theory, twisted into something new. The aliens achieve FTL by slipping into dimensional layers. Yuki explained. It's efficient. It's refined. It took them 10,000 generations to perfect. And Marcus prompted. And we don't have 10,000 generations. Yuki's smile was sharp. So instead of slipping between dimensions, we're punching through them. It's not elegant. The energy requirements are insane. But it works. And we built it in 8 months using modified fusion reactors and salvaged alien components they thought we couldn't understand. Military applications. Yuki's smile faded. You mean, can it be weaponized? Marcus, everything can be weaponized. The question is whether we cross that line? Marcus finished quietly. I know. But if they push us down. He didn't finish the thought. He didn't need to. Across the facility, in sealed labs that required triple authorization, other teams worked on other projects. Adaptive nanotech that made human bodies resilient to hostile environments. Quantum, encrypted communication systems the Vex couldn't hack. Bioweapons designed to target specific alien biochemistries, but locked behind protocols that required a unanimous vote of Earth Security Council to deploy. Humanity wasn't just preparing for war. They were preparing to survive one. In the diplomatic corps, a different kind of preparation was underway. Ambassador Chen sat in a secure briefing room on Earth, surrounded by representatives from every human colony. The faces on the screens showed exhaustion, frustration, and something harder, determination. The Crathian have increased administrative oversight on New Harmony, reported Governor James Okonkwo, his deep voice tight with controlled anger. Which means their ships now orbit our planet constantly. They claim it's for our protection. But last week, they impounded 3 of our cargo vessels for improper documentation. Documentation we've been using for 5 years. Same story on Arcturus Prime, added Director Liu. The Vex have requested access to our manufacturing facilities. Not negotiated. Not asked permission. Requested. As if we have no choice. Sarah listened to report after report. The pattern was clear. The Council was tightening its grip, testing humanity's limits, seeing how far they could push before the young species broke. They're treating us like children, someone said. No, Sarah corrected. They're treating us like resources, and the moment we stop being useful, we become disposable. She stood, her chair scraping across the floor. So we have a choice. We can accept that status. Or we can show them what happens when you corner something that refuses to be prey. Are you talking about war? Governor Okonkwo asked. I'm talking about survival, Sarah replied. War is what they'll call it when we stop letting them dictate the terms. She pulled up a star map. Red markers indicated human colonies. Blue markers showed major alien installations. Yellow showed shared resources. For the last year, we've been quietly building redundancy into our supply chains. Every critical system now has backups the Council doesn't know about. Every colony has been fortified subtly, but thoroughly. We've been recruiting, training, and positioning. Positioning for what? Director Liu asked. Sarah's expression was cold. For the moment they force our hand. Because make no mistake, that moment is coming. The Council has been testing us, and they've decided we'll break before we fight. They're wrong. She highlighted a series of trade routes. Next month, the Krathine merchant fleet will demand access to the Proxima Centauri mining facilities. We will refuse. They will threaten force. And that's when we deliver our ultimatum. The room went silent. What ultimatum? Someone whispered. Sarah met each of their eyes in turn. The last one. The only one that matters. And we'd better hope they listen. In the observation post hidden among the asteroids near Earth, the same Telshire analyst, who had flagged Sarah's expression 8 months ago, now watched the encrypted data streams flowing between human colonies with growing alarm. The patterns were all wrong. Human communications had suddenly become too organized. Supply shipments too efficient. Colonial defense grids too robust. The analyst compiled another report. This one marked urgent. Human activities suggest coordinated preparation for significant event. Recommend Council inquiry. This report made it further up the chain, to a junior administrator, who glanced at it briefly before filing it away. After all, what could humans possibly be preparing for? That would matter to powers measured in oons. The administrator never filed the report with the Council. Humanity had learned many things from the galaxy, but perhaps the most important lesson was this: sometimes the best weapon is being underestimated. Part TRETHE. Lenin Ice DRAWN. 3 weeks later. Proxima Centauri system. The Krathian battle. Cruiser dominance of spheres emerged from its dimensional slip with the casual arrogance of a power that had never known defeat. Its massive hull, covered in bio, Metallic plates that shimmered with inner light dwarfed the human mining station, hanging in orbit around Proxima b. Attention human installation. Came the transmission, all three of the Krathian commanders' voices, speaking in unsettling harmony. You have been notified of our arrival. Prepare for docking and inspection. This is not a request. On the station's command deck, Director Sarah Volkov, no relation to the ambassador, despite sharing a homeland, watched the approaching warship with studied calm. Around her, the station crew moved with practiced efficiency that would have surprised anyone who still thought of humans as chaotic and emotional. Status. Sarah asked quietly. Defense grid is hot, reported her tactical officer. 8 automated platforms all armed. But ma'am, against a Krathian cruiser. I know the odds, Lieutenant. Open a channel. The view screen flickered to life, showing the Krathian commander. The alien's 3 heads regarded her with the bored indifference of a bureaucrat processing paperwork. Your inspection request is denied, Sarah said clearly. Proxima Station operates under human jurisdiction. We have broken no council regulations. You have no authority here. The commander's central head tilted slightly, the Krathian equivalent of a raised eyebrow. Director Volkov, you seem to misunderstand the situation. The council granted us oversight authority over human operations in contested space. Proxima Centauri qualifies. You will comply, or we will board by force. No, Sarah said simply. You will not. For a moment, the Krathian commander looked genuinely surprised. In 10,000 years of galactic interaction, few species had ever responded to a Krathian military directive with a flat refusal. I will give you one more opportunity. No, Sarah interrupted. I will give you one opportunity. Turn your ship around. Leave this system. And understand that if you attempt to board this station by force, we will respond in kind. The commander's 3 heads drew back in unison. You threaten us. A human mining station threatens a Krathian battle cruiser. The heads began to weave in an intricate pattern, Krathian laughter. I have been merciful thus far, because you are young and foolish. But I see you require education in reality. The transmission cut off. On the tactical display, the dominance of spheres began its approach. Weapon systems coming online with a glow visible, even to the naked eye. Mom. The tactical officer's voice was steady, but his knuckles were white on his console. Orders. Sarah took a breath. This was the moment. The line they'd known they would eventually have to draw. The point where humanity stopped asking for permission and started demanding respect. Signal the fleet, she said quietly. Execute awakening protocol. For 5 seconds, nothing happened. Then space shattered. The dimensional rifts opened simultaneously. Not with the smooth, elegant slip of conventional FTL, but with violent tears in reality itself. The Prometheus engines didn't slip between dimensions. They punched through them. And the energy signatures were unlike anything the Krathian had ever encountered. 6 human warships emerged in perfect formation around the station. They weren't large. They weren't beautiful. Compared to the organic artistry of Krathian vessels or the geometric perfection of Vex constructs, human warships looked exactly like what they were. Weapons built by a species that had spent its entire history learning to kill things. that wanted to kill them first. The UHF Defiance positioned itself directly between the Kratheen cruiser and the station. On its hull, painted in letters designed to be visible at this distance, was humanity's first official war vessel designation. Kratheen vessel. Came a new voice on the comm channels. This is Captain Michael Torres of the United Human Space Forces. You have entered a human-controlled system and threatened human lives and property. You have been given the opportunity to withdraw. You chose not to take it. The Kratheen commander's 3 heads stopped their laughing pattern and froze in something that might have been shock. This is your final warning. Captain Torres continued, his voice calm and absolutely unyielding. Leave now, or we will remove you. We do not want war, but we will not be threatened. Not today. Not ever again. On the Kratheen cruiser's bridge, alarms began screaming as sensors analyzed the human vessels. The technology was crude, yes, but the weapon systems, the power signatures, the targeting locks now, painting the dominance of spheres from 6 different angles. They're actually prepared to fire, whispered one of the tactical officers. The commander's 3 heads turned inward, conferring rapidly in ultrasonic frequencies. The math was simple. The dominance could destroy any one human ship. Probably 2. Maybe even 3 before they could respond effectively. But 6. And with energy signatures that suggested weapons systems that didn't match any known galactic design. The commander had a choice. Call the bluff. If it was a bluff, escalate to violence with an unknown opponent. Or, all weapons, stand down, the commander ordered. Then, on the open channel, this incident will be reported to the Council. Your actions today have consequences, Captain Torres. So do yours. Torres replied. Remember that. The dominance of spheres rotated slowly, almost majestically, and slipped back into FTL space. The human fleet held position for another 30 minutes, before withdrawing in a coordinated jump that left only shimmering after images. On Earth, Ambassador Sarah Chen watched the recorded footage of the encounter in her private office. Her hands were shaking, not from fear, but from the weight of what had just changed. They had drawn the line, and the galaxy had blinked first. But Chen knew, with absolute certainty, that this was not the end. It was barely even the beginning. She pulled up her secure comm and typed a message to the UHSF command. Phase 1 complete. Prepare for Phase 2. They know we have teeth now. Next, they'll test how hard we bite. Across the galaxy, in 1,000 different star systems, the news began to spread. Humans had defied a Kratheen battle cruiser, had deployed a fleet from nowhere, had drawn a line and defended it. Some species saw opportunity. Others saw danger. And the ancient powers of the Council saw something they hadn't felt in 10 million years. Uncertainty. The Tal Shir analyst, whose warnings had gone unheeded for months, now stood before a Council intelligence director, their compound eyes wide with vindication and terror. I tried to tell you, the analyst said. Humans don't think like we do. When we're threatened, we negotiate or submit. When they're threatened, they evolve. The director finished grimly. And they do it faster than any species in recorded history. The director pulled up the tactical data from Proxima Centauri. 6 warships that hadn't existed 8 months ago. Technology that broke every assumption about human capabilities. How long? The director asked. How long until what? Until they're not just defending themselves. Until they're strong enough to challenge the order itself. The analyst ran calculations through their neural interface. When the answer came, they wished they hadn't asked the question. At current rate of development. 5 years. Maybe less. The council would need to make a decision. Accommodate the rising power, attempt to contain it, or try to destroy it before it grew too strong. But the council moved slowly, debated endlessly, and trusted in patterns that had held for eons. Humanity, meanwhile, counted time in months and planned for years. The race was on. Peril FOURTHEHY, 6 months after Proxima Centauri. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened with an unusual sense of urgency. Representatives who normally took months to gather had arrived within days. The chamber, usually filled with languid deliberation, now crackled with tension. Arbiter Thel. Var called for order, but the chamber ignored him. Brazenly violated the non-proliferation accords. Development of military assets without council oversight. Precedent. If we allow this species to RDR. Thel. Var's voice finally cut through, amplified to painful levels. The chamber silenced. We are not here to debate whether humanity has overstepped. We are here to decide our response. The Vex Primarch spoke first, its mechanical voice precise and damning. The data is conclusive. Humanity has developed military technology at an unprecedented rate. Their Prometheus engine alone represents a fundamental breakthrough in dimensional physics that should have taken millennia. They accomplished it in months. By stealing our technology. The Krathian delegate accused, all 3 heads speaking in vengeful harmony. Adapting. Corrected a new voice. Every head in the chamber turned toward the speaker. It was Ambassador Chen, standing at the human podium. She shouldn't have been admitted to this emergency session at all. But somehow, she was there. We adapted your technology. She continued calmly. Using principles you published in open academic journals. Using components you sold us for mining operations. We simply applied them in ways you never imagined. That's not theft. That's innovation. That's dangerous, hissed the Krathian delegate. Your kind should not have access to such capabilities. You are too young, too unstable, too effective. Chen interrupted. That's what you mean, isn't it? For 10 million years, you've maintained order by ensuring no young species could challenge the established powers. Well, we just did. And you're not sure how to handle it. The Vex Primarch's optical array focused on her. Ambassador Chen. The Council has already made its decision. We are merely determining the details of implementation. Chen felt her pulse quicken. What decision? Economic sanctions. Var announced. Effective immediately. All human colonies will be subject to trade restrictions. Your FTL privileges will be revoked. Your access to council space will be limited to designated corridors. And your military assets will be dismantled or surrendered to council custody within 1 standard cycle. The chamber went silent. Chen looked around at the assembled powers. The ancient Krathian, who had ruled through military might for 5 million years. the calculating Vex, who had orchestrated galactic economics for even longer. The dozen other species who had climbed the ladder and then pulled it up behind them. "You're trying to cage us," she said quietly. "We are ensuring stability." Var corrected. "The alternative is chaos." "The alternative," Chen replied, her voice hardening, "is allowing a new voice at the table. But you're so terrified of change that you'd rather crush it than adapt to it." She pulled up a holographic display. It showed humanity's 17 colonies. Red warning indicators pulsed around each one. "You think we didn't anticipate this? You think we built a fleet without building the infrastructure to maintain it, the logistics to supply it, the resolve to use it? You cannot win a war against the Council," the Krathian delegate stated flatly. "Your 6 ships against our thousands, your 17 colonies against our empire of star systems. This is not bravery, Ambassador. It is suicide." Chen smiled, and there was no warmth in it. "You still don't understand us. We don't need to win a war. We just need to make it too expensive for you to wage one." She expanded the display. Now it showed not just human colonies, but every major trade route, resource extraction operation, and diplomatic hub in the sector. Every one of your empires relies on stability for prosperity. Your economies are built on predictable trade. Your civilian populations expect peace. You've grown comfortable. Soft. She met the Krathian delegate's 6 eyes unflinchingly. "We haven't. We've spent our entire history fighting for survival on a death world that tried to kill us in 1,000 different ways. We learned to adapt, to endure, to hurt anything that threatened us. You threaten us." The Krathian delegates' heads rose in anger. "No," Chen said. "I'm giving you a choice. A real one, not the false choice you tried to give us, Da." She brought up a new document on the display. The Proxima Accord. Human colonies gain full sovereignty and council recognition. In exchange, we open our technological developments to shared research. We integrate into the galactic economy as equals. We contribute to council security operations. We become partners, not subjects. And if we refuse? Asked the Vex Primarch. Chen's expression was ice. Then we take our sovereignty by force. We defend every colony. We disrupt every trade route you use to maintain your empires. We make peace so expensive and war so painful that you'll wish you'd negotiated." She paused. "And we'll do it knowing that we can't win in the long run. But also knowing that by the time you crush us, you'll have torn apart the very order you're trying to protect." The chamber erupted in outrage. Representatives shouted over each other. Security moved toward Chen's podium, but Var held up a limb for silence. When he spoke, his voice was thoughtful. "You would truly choose mutual destruction over submission." Chen met his gaze. "We would choose freedom over survival. But it doesn't have to be mutual destruction. That's the point. You have a choice. Make us enemies and we'll both lose. Or make us allies and we all benefit." "Allies?" The Krathian delegate scoffed. "You, who have existed for less time than my morning contemplation. What could you possibly offer us?" "Perspective," Chen said. "Fresh eyes on problems you've been staring at for eons. Technology developed through desperation rather than comfort. And most importantly, comfort. that the order can change without collapsing. Because if you crush us, what happens to the next species that rises? And the next? How long can you maintain control through fear alone? The question hung in the air. Var looked around the chamber. The council will deliberate. Ambassador Chen, you will wait outside. Chen nodded and left. Her back straight, her footsteps echoing in the massive chamber. In the antechamber, she finally allowed herself to shake. What she'd just done was either the boldest negotiation in human history or humanity's death warrant. She pulled out her secure comm and sent a single message to Captain Taurus. Endgame protocol. If they reject the accord, we go to Condition Alpha. Condition Alpha was the contingency plan. The last resort option. Every human military asset would activate simultaneously. Every colony would declare independence. And the quiet preparations of the last year, the weapons caches, the guerrilla training, the distributed command structure, would transform into open resistance. It wouldn't be war. It would be insurgency on a galactic scale. And Chen knew, with absolute certainty, that the Council had never faced anything like it. Inside the chamber, the Arbiter looked at his fellow Council members. Opinions. The Krathene delegate's response was immediate. Crush them. Make an example. Show the galaxy what happens to species that overstep. But the Vex Primarch's response was more measured. Calculate the cost. If they truly commit to resistance, the economic damage alone could destabilize 3 sectors. And if other species see humans successfully resist, we would face a cascade. Finished Var grimly. Other young species would follow their example. A smaller delegate, from a species called the Lear who rarely spoke, raised a tentacle. There is another consideration. I have reviewed the human cultural archives. Their history. They tell stories about moments like this. They call them last stands. And in those stories, the species that forces such a stand, even if they win, they are remembered as monsters. They lose the moral authority that makes governance possible. The chamber fell silent, so we give in to their demands. The Krathene delegate sputtered. We reward their insolence. No, Var said slowly. We adapt. As we should have done 10 million years ago. He pulled up the Proxima Accord. This document is not unreasonable. It offers us stability in exchange for minor concessions. It gives us access to their innovation. And it sets a precedent we can use with other rising species. You would change 10 million years of order for them. The Krathene delegate demanded. I would change it because clinging to the past has blinded us to the future. Var replied. He looked around the chamber. Al in favor of accepting the Proxima Accord with modifications to preserve Council authority. The vote was not unanimous, but it was enough. When Chen was called back into the chamber, she knew immediately from the Arbiter's posture what had happened. The Council accepts your proposal, Var announced, with conditions that will preserve balance and security. Humanity will gain recognized sovereignty. But you will also accept limitations on military expansion and allow Council observers on your worlds. It wasn't perfect, but it was something no other species had achieved in recorded history. A seat at the table, earned not given. Chen bowed formally. The Proxima Accord is acceptable. Humanity thanks the Council for its wisdom. As she left the chamber, she allowed herself a tiny smile. They had won the first real victory. But in the back of her mind, a voice whispered, "They'll never forgive us for forcing their hand. They'll watch us now, waiting for us to slip. And when we do," she pushed the thought aside. They would deal with tomorrow's problems tomorrow. Today, humanity was no longer a subject species. Today, they were equals. And the galaxy would never be quite the same.